Hello, happy July. This is like a very quick update of the monthly movie review. You might be thinking, like, are you the same person? Since when do you start posting so early for this monthly reviews? But it's just that I just decided to watch a movie a few days ago, and I thought, like, oh my, I need to talk about this. So yeah, this is it. I need to talk about it before like the emotions that I had watching that movie like starts to fade away by time. So I'm just gonna talk about it now. Anyways, I still haven't figured out the lighting thing yet for this setup, and I don't think I will ever figure that out. But I have this like table lamp with me that I put in front of me. I thought this would be like the best lighting, like somewhere like this, but like I can't just like hold my arms up. So it's just gonna be like this. So let's just pretend this is like a campfire kind of setting. Anyways, so the movie that I watched for July is it's Finding Emily. Um, I I've been seeing like people talking about this movie a lot on Twitter, and I didn't really expect much of it because it is commonly like in those posts that I saw on Twitter. This movie is commonly like put together with like other rom-coms from that came out recently. So I didn't think much of it. Like, to be frank, I'm not a huge like a rom-com person. I enjoy it, but I don't really know much. I don't watch that much rom-coms actually. So I didn't expect much, but I really wanted to watch it, so I watched it. If you haven't seen it and you're planning, or you think that it might be up your might be something that you probably enjoy, so I suggest that you go watch that first, because this is gonna be a totally full spoiler kind of review, same as the ones that I did before. I mean, like, there's not much to spoil anyway. It's a rom-com, but yeah, just in case like you're looking forward to watch this and you think that you're gonna enjoy it, so please just go watch it first and then come back. So this movie is about this guy Owen. He met a girl named Emily in like a campus kind of nightclub, I think, and he had been interacting with her for only around 20 minutes, and he thought at that moment, he thought, this is the perfect girl for me. He felt that there was a connection. They laughed, they danced, but after around 20 minutes, the girl's best friend, I guess, tried ushered her out, saying that they're late for like a birthday party that's going on. And then funny enough, like, he throughout the whole time that they were interacting, they didn't think to like ask for each other's names. At least ask for each other's, not even at least, it's like the first thing that you probably do when you try to get to know someone. But they didn't get each other's name until the very last minute. So he found out that her name is Emily, and then he managed to get her number. And then yeah, he was giddy all night. The next morning, it's like he was very happy, excited. He wanted to text her, but when he texted her, turns out there was a missing digit, so the text didn't go out. So he gets very frustrated. So he's going around the campus. Actually, he's not a student. He is actually a junior staff at the campus. So this is gonna like be quite important later on. And then he was just going around campus asking around, do you know like this Emily? Like, Emily what? He doesn't know, because he only has the name Emily. And then while he was asking, like, someone heard him and saying, hey, I know this one Emily. She's in the psychology class. She's taking psychology. She sounds like someone who you're looking for. And it's Emily Rain. But when he goes to find her, it turns out that it's a different person. But interesting enough, Emily Rain, she's studying psychology, and she's doing like a dissertation for like to get some kind of a position. I think like to be an assistant researcher or something. And she was trying really hard to get her dissertation right so that she will be accepted for the position. And then the thing that she's studying is her hypothesis is that, let me just phrase this simply. She says that people who has like romantic attachments, like having feelings for someone, whether it's consensual or not, those people who have those kind of romantic feelings, they tend to be vulnerable, and then they will do anything to get the other person's attention or to do something for the other person, and that it would lead to them self-sabotaging themselves. So basically what she's saying, that this shouldn't be a thing that people shouldn't do. It's like I'm really bad at explaining this, and I don't think I even understand the whole thing, but she's basically just saying that it's like an evolution kind of thing where humans are not supposed to have this, to be vulnerable in this kind of way, because it is harmful to themselves. So when she saw Owen like going out of his way to find this girl that he only met for like a few minutes, she thought that she found herself her own case study, because she was struggling with her research. She couldn't find any clear evidence of her hypothesis, and because she wanted, of course, like you can negate your own hypothesis in your research, but it doesn't make your research looks very boom. So she needs to find like a good case study. So when she saw Owen, she immediately thought like, this is it. So now Owen and Emily, they're working together to find that Emily without this, let's call her American Emily. The main girl is the American Emily, because this movie is set in like Manchester, and this Emily is American. So this American Emily, she wanted to follow Owen to whatever he's doing, because to her he is her case study, which is actually not ethical in the research, in like doing research, because you need to tell the other person that, hey, you are my case study, I'm observing you, this is what I'm doing. But she didn't tell him, so he didn't know that he's basically like her guinea pig. And then yeah, she was just following him around, and then trying to see if he does whether embarrassing thing or like harmful thing to himself, just to get to his goal of finding that Emily. Okay, but then he didn't have like much leads anyway, because he only knows her name. And then he tried a few things, and then after some time he didn't even try that much. Actually, to be honest, it's like a very normal kind of like search for me, I think, personally. And then he's starting to give up, because like probably it's not meant to be. And then this is not good for American Emily, because it doesn't help her cause. It doesn't help to show that her whatever he's doing, it negates everything that she's saying in her hypotheses. So she is conflicted with herself, because she really wanted like this Owen to show something, to do something out of his way, but then he just gave up. So she kind of like encourages him, which is, you can't do that, because there's bias, there's confirmation bias, there's like all this kind of thing. Like you cannot like influence your subject, your study, to like do something, to influence them to do something that would, can't find my words, support your hypotheses. But she did. So she found a way to like to get all the emails of all the Emilys in the campus, and she wanted him to send out an email to all of them. Well, at first Owen was like, this is not right. He can't do that because one, he's not a student there, and two, it's how would he explain to all those people how would he get their emails, right? But then American Emily was like, yeah, you should do it. You can't like back off now. You should do it. You just send them an email and she'll eventually respond. And now she's conflicted because now she feels guilty about it, because it's not even a gray area. She's basically like doing like kind of a selfish thing. Yeah. So he sent out an email saying that, hey, I'm that guy that you met a few days ago, blah 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 blah. But turns out he CC'd to all of them instead of BCC. So all of those Emilys can see all of the other Emilys in the email thread. So now they're discussing between them in the email thread between all the Emilys. So when you BCC them, it just looks like he's just sending a personal email to that person. But now because he CC'd all of them, so now all of them can just interact with each other in that email thread. And then they were just saying like, who is this creep? How does he get our address, email address? Why is he looking for someone who's clearly not into him based on what they observe? Yeah, I'm explaining too much about the storyline of this movie because so many things are happening. I haven't even got into like the thing that I dissected yet, and I have a lot to say. Anyway, yeah, so all these people thought that he was a creep, and things happened, things escalated, and people started, all these Emilys thought that this Owen just cannot accept that he just got rejected, which is not true because we know what happened. But all of these people thought that he's being desperate, he's being a creep, whatever, and then it eventually leads to like a protest amongst all the Emilys, and then they wanted him to show himself, and then for him to be removed from the campus for their own safety. And then eventually Owen thought that, and then they were gonna do a podcast, and they publicly invited this person to show himself on the podcast and try to explain himself, and he did. And this American Emily is just watching all of this. It kind of like at this point it supports her hypothesis because he's doing this thing, like he's showing himself to everyone, public, basically, which is obviously is gonna affect his image. Yeah. So he does. He explains himself. He badly explains himself. Like, I wish like I could just like talk for him there, but he was just he didn't know how to explain himself. He just make himself looks a lot more like a creep. And things happen, blah blah blah. People were not convinced, and then he also said that people were asking like, how did you get all those emails? And he said that he hacked into the system, which is not true. It's because he didn't want like people to know that Emily was helping him. And yeah, people didn't like that. The Emilys don't like that, and things escalated, blah 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 blah. He eventually gets removed from the campus because all these Emilys thought that he was stalking on them, like doing weird stuff with them, blah blah blah. But throughout all that, Owens and this American Emily's relationship got a lot more close. Owen eventually started to like don't really care about the Emily that he met at the club. He eventually started to like move on past her, and then he realized that this Emily is like fun to be with, but this Emily is like very persistent that he should do more things to find Emily because he wanted it. him to support her research, which he doesn't know of. And yeah, but then after some time, Owen eventually found out about it. He realized, oh my god, there's so many things to say. And then eventually the Emily that he met at that night eventually replies, and then turns out her name is not Emily as in Emily. Her name is Amelie. I think I'm pronouncing the same, but it's spelled Amelie. So that's why she didn't immediately respond, because she didn't personally get the email. She just thought, I think this is meant for me. So that's how she got in contact with him, and then they met, and then just like that, the sparks like were not there anymore. They don't like connect just as much as how they first met. And then at that point, Owen realized that maybe the real person was with him all along, and it was the American Emily. So he ran out to look for her, like typical rom-com style, like running to find like the other person, but she wasn't home. But her roommate let him in. They were just looking around into her room, blah blah blah, and he found out the whole board of her like drafting her ideas for the research, and he found out that she was doing all of this for her own selfish needs. And then it must be so heartbreaking for him, because he thought that there could be something, but yeah, it was all like a ruse for her. And then she eventually saw him like looking all over stuff. She tried to apologize to him, but he just went out, and it obviously broke American Emily down, because at that point she also realized her feelings for him. And then it was very difficult for her, but she has to do her presentations anyway. She submitted her paper, she got good marks, and then she needed to do a presentation for that. But at that point she had already been conflicted. She felt bad for what happened to Owen. She felt responsible for it. So she decided that I can't remember how she told Owen, but she basically said that I really need. Oh yeah, she went to the podcast again for a different podcast episode, live episode, and then she publicly said like, hey, I'm gonna do this presentation at this time, you should come, and I'm gonna explain everything. So she did her presentation, and like throughout this whole thing, like people on the campus, they were all so invested about the story about like Owen and Emily this and Emily that. They were also invested because they followed the podcast and everything. And as she was presenting her paper, everyone started like swarming in the room, and then they were just trying to see what happened. So she started to do her presentation, but the irony is that she herself is doing the exact thing that she's talking about in the paper, as in self-sabotaging. She could have like do her presentation very well, presenting her ideas, her findings, and then eventually get accepted for that position. But she sabotaged herself because she thought that she needed to do this for Owen. And that's basically the same thing that she's trying to like, like tell people around that you shouldn't do this, people are like this, blah 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 blah. And then yeah, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, I think, and then eventually like they solve this, and then Owen forgives her, and he forgives her like very quickly, I think. And yeah, happy ending, I guess. I didn't expect to like having to tell the whole synopsis of the movie. Honestly, didn't expect it, because I wanted to see more things about what happened, but I feel like if I don't say those things, like people are not gonna understand what I'm talking about if they don't know the context. But then I did tell you to go watch the movie first, right? So you would know. Anyways, so these are my thoughts. Oh my god, it's already 20 minutes. These are my thoughts. I'm gonna talk about the characters first. So this Emily character, at first I feel like I don't really feel her at least in the first half, because to me it felt like she's not like a real person. Her dialogues, her way of like doing her study, like showing how she's very invested in the study, it doesn't feel very real to me. It just felt very, the dialogues felt very manufactured. I don't know, just for me, because it's very difficult for me to imagine someone like her in real life, at least in anyone I know. Like, it's very, I don't know how to say it. She's very driven in a way that you would say like no one behaves like that. No normal person behaves like that, you know? Like how she's very invested, and then she's just trying to like get out of her way to like, okay, this, to just find a case study, and when she finds it, she's like very like into it. So like trying to make everything right and everything. I don't know, maybe I didn't get it because I wrote my paper for marks, but she wrote hers for like to be in that position, in like very established, I don't know, like research center, whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't, her character felt very off for me in that sense. And also because she's kind of selfish in like her motivations and everything. And I wish like they had this what do you call that? Not issue, I forgot what's the word, like, but that you know, like in the movie you have conflict. Yes, I wish they introduced this conflict like a bit earlier, so that we can see the progress between the conflict and between Owen accepting that. So instead of like in just one night, Owen just like forgives her and everything. Yeah, because like the thing that Emily did is very selfish, very like, it's very, yeah, I felt sad for Owen because of that. So yeah, that's about her character. Owen, I feel like I'm a bit biased. Okay, so as I was watching this movie, I didn't have much thought about him. I was just watching it. But then as I was watching it and then eventually like finishing the movie, I thought like, oh my god, this guy, he is such a softie. Like, I don't know how to tell you. Like, when if you've seen the movie, like, can you just like, do you get what I mean? Like, he's so soft. Like, he's kind of goofy, but not in like an annoying way. And then he's just very soft with Emily. He's just like very nice. He's not, you know, it's just like there's a charm about him. And like, I can't stop thinking about it ever since I finished watching that movie. And at one point, like, his friend called him like a soft lad, and I think that perfectly like sums up his character based on what I see. Yeah. Okay, but then this movie for me is not perfect. It's not like, I get that people say that this movie is very Sing Street coded, and I get that it has the same vibe, but I don't think it reaches the same level as Sing Street for me, because Sing Street for me is like, it's like the best movie ever. It has a very special place in my heart. And although this movie is also really great, but there are some aspects of it that I'm not a fan of. So especially, I don't like the part where everyone were obsessing over this email thing, because to be honest, to me, I don't think like it's such a big deal. Like, you know, like, okay, just because he got their emails, however way he got those emails, like, because emails are not like as private as phone numbers. Like, you can give out your emails to anyone. It's not like he calls them, right? So everyone's like making such a big deal out of this, and then they were protesting and everything, and then they shows like scenes of like people talking about it on TikTok, and who is this guy and where is this Emily, blah blah blah, and then it's gonna scroll, and then there are people gonna be on his side and people on the Emily side. He's such a creep. I just feel like those kind of things felt a bit cringy to me. I guess I don't like the inclusions of like those social media thing in this movie thing, because I don't know, I feel like I prefer a movie where you just stay in that universe of yours. Like it's a fantasy for me. Like I don't want it to be too close to reality or something. At the same time, I don't want it to be very I don't know. I just when I watch movie like this, I always imagine, okay, I want it to be in a world where everything works out. When there's conflict, it's gonna work out. But then when they include these things that I feel like too real, I don't know. It's very real, at the same time it's not real. It's very real in terms of that this TikTok things, like people spread things on TikTok and it spreads very fast. But also it doesn't feel real, as in like no one cares about this. But also at the same time it also felt real because actually people are busybodies, so this could happen. But at the same time I thought, yeah, it's just very confusing for me. I just wish that they don't have this part. But anyway, I just think that it feels a bit bleak, like having all this TikTok scenes. It does reflect the reality a bit in a way that people are just too busybody. That's it. But overall, I think I liked the second half of the movie more. The overall vibe of the movie felt a lot nicer. It felt a lot more like a rom-com. It has this very calming and very like butterflies in your stomach kind of thing at in the second half of the movie. The first half felt a bit like more, this thing happened, blah 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 blah. Just felt like that. But then overall, even though I said all the things, I think like the writers, they intentionally did that. I think they're very aware that this thing, the whole concept of like people being obsessing over the email thing is very very not crucial like in the real world. It feels like it's not gonna happen in the real world because no one cares. Because there was several scenes. There was because this whole thing is like broadcasted in like a live podcast, and it shows that everyone on campus was like watching the podcast live on like the big screen. And then there was one scene where everyone was watching, and then there's this guy who was just standing there. He was just sitting there and was just watching, and he would just say like, how is this news? Like he was just saying out loud like, how is this news? And I think like and then there's another scene where there was like a follow-up podcast where Emily was in, and then he saw that again, and he was like, how is this still going? And he was just asking very loudly. And I think this is like sort of like a break the fourth wall kind of thing. Like he is saying what we're thinking, and I felt that it is very intentional, and the writer acknowledged that this whole thing that they did, it shouldn't be that big of a thing. So I think that's very interesting. And all in all, I get the charm of the movie. I get that rom-com vibes. It has this 2000s rom-com vibes with this big gestures and the big reveals, like Emily doing that presentation in front of the whole people, basically like confessing her feelings or whatever. So that's that kind of big gestures, like you don't see people doing that in everyday life. And also, but I guess like I mentioned before, the TikTok part, I think the modernism of everything, it's kind of off-putting for me, because I think there's probably like a gap where the early 2000s, and like I guess some early 2010s, they were famous like for this kind of rom-coms, and then suddenly there's like a huge gap, and now people are starting to make rom-coms again, and I feel like the usual charm of rom-com that I'm used to is kind of lost. You know how you see, typically when you think of rom-com, you would think of characters walking around in like 2000s fashion, having flip phones, and they have like very interesting job, job that wouldn't be logical for this day and age. So I guess when I've always been connecting all those elements to rom-com, so when those elements are not in this movie, it just felt a bit, I felt like, because of they're missing from this movie, so it felt kind of off for me. But that's not like a big deal, it's just something that I have to get used to, you know because yeah, it's just because I've always like imagined rom-coms are like this, but then when they do it in like the modern times, and then they added those like podcast thing and then those TikTok things, it just felt it just felt like very, yeah, something like that. But in the end, the whole movie itself, like I said, it's not a serious movie at all. It pokes fun at itself like multiple times, like I noticed, like the one that I mentioned before. So, and also, yeah, I'm just obsessed with Owen, the guy who plays Owen, or Owen himself, or whatever. Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed. So this review might be a bit biased, but I haven't done this rating thing for a while, but I would give this one probably 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, feels about right. Would I watch it again? Yeah, I think so. Probably. But I wouldn't put it above Sing Street. Yeah, although they're very like quite similar to each other. Yeah, this has been such a long review. I never have like a format for this kind of things. I just do things like spontaneous. Anyway, thanks for listening if you made it all got through the end. Yeah, thank you, bye. See you.